Chrysophytes are microscopic in nature, meaning they cannot be seen by the naked eye. The accumulation of silica for billions of years in the soil, you call it as diatomaceous earth. So whatever dead organic matter comes in the way, they just engulf that particular or feed on that particular organic matter. Talking about their habitat, they are mainly aquatic, either freshwater or marine in habitat. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to this session on first PUC Biology. I am Dr. Divya, Biology Faculty, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, Temple of Excellence, Mysore. So in this session, let us study about a small topic, that is Kingdom Protista, under the chapter Biological Classification. So we shall learn about Kingdom Protista and then look into what are some of the MCQs that can be framed under this particular topic. So let's learn what Kingdom Protista is. So in the previous session, we understood under Kingdom Monera, we have the bacteria organisms, which is divided as eubacteria and archaebacteria. In this Kingdom Protista, it also has the single-celled organism, same like Kingdom Monera, but the only thing is they are eukaryotes. Kingdom Monera were prokaryotes, meaning the nucleus did not have a nuclear membrane, or they did not have a definite nucleus or a true nucleus. But in this case, in Kingdom Protista, they have a true nucleus wherein the nucleus is surrounded by a nuclear membrane, and they also have organelles which are bound by a membrane. So therefore, they fall under eukaryotes. They are the eukaryotic organism. Talking about their habitat, they are mainly aquatic, either freshwater or marine in habitat. And the cell body, it has a well-defined nucleus, as I told you. That is why they have been put under the eukaryotes. Along with, they have membrane-bound organelles as well. And the Kingdom Protista, most of the organism, if they are motile, meaning if they are capable of moving, they will either have flagella or cilia. Flagella means it is the whip-like structure that helps the organism to move. So here you can see one Protistan that I have put here. It has a flagella, so which helps it to move. Or cilia means they have on their entire body, they have fine hair-like structures which helps them to move. This is nothing but cilia if they have. So this organism only has a flagella. So they can either have a flagella or a cilia for the movement. So the reproduction is asexually, wherein the cells fuse, and sexually, wherein they form a zygote. So all this will study detail when studying about the different classes under Kingdom Protista. So moving to the different classes under Kingdom Protista. So under the Chrysophytes, the Dinoflagellates, then the Euglenoids and the Protozoans and the slime molds. So 5 classes altogether. So each of these classes we shall study one by one. So talking about the first one, that is Chrysophytes. So Chrysophytes are microscopic in nature, meaning they cannot be seen by the naked eye. You have to use a microscope with higher magnification if you have to see this Chrysophytes. And sometimes they are free floating, for example, the plankton. So planktons are those organisms which are capable of floating freely in water despite the water currents. Next, talking about the habitat, they can live in fresh water and in marine water, that is seas and oceans. And they are photosynthetic. Their mode of nutrition is photosynthetic. That is, they have chlorophyll pigment in them. That is why they are green in color, if you can look at them. So they have chlorophyll pigment in them. And therefore, that chlorophyll pigment helps them to synthesize their own food. So therefore, they are autotrophs. In that, they are photosynthetic. Example, we have diatoms and desmids. So here I have given some of the examples, pictures of diatoms. If you can see, they are very beautiful in structure if you look at them, right? So they are diatoms, they are free floating, and also desmids, which are also called as golden algae, because they have a phytopigment in them which gives them that particular golden color, and they show some characteristics that are similar to algae. That is why they have been also called as golden algae. So these two are the examples. So this was about Chrysophytes. So we shall study about diatoms in detail. That is, diatom is one of the important example under Chrysophyte, and diatom, they are the chief producers in the oceans. So producers means we all know about the trophic levels in the food chain or the food web, right? Wherein we have the producers, the consumers, all that, right? So producers come under the lowest level of the food, wherein the consumers, which are the herbivores, they depend on the producers. So producers will be plants. So therefore, here diatoms in the ocean, they act as the chief producer, wherein most of the organisms in the ocean, they feed on these diatoms for their food. They use these diatoms as their food. And these diatoms, they are made up of cell wall. So what they have? They have cell wall. So if you remember, we had studied in Monera, the cell wall was made of polysaccharides and amino acids, right? Here, the cell walls of diatoms are mainly made of silica. And the cell walls are nothing but they are very thin and they overlap on one another, and they are covered with some substance called as silica, and that is why, because though the cell wall is very thin, it is indestructible. They are very, very tough in nature because they have silica deposition on them. And because they have silica deposition on them, what happens when these diatoms, they die? For billions of years, they die, and then they start decaying or decomposing. What happens? The diatoms will just decompose, but their silica that is there, that will get deposited in the soil. It will remain as such in the soil. So accumulation of silica for billions of years in the soil, you call it as diatomaceous earth. And this soil, which is rich in silica, is used for polishing. Because it is somewhat gritty, that is granular in structure. Therefore, we can use it for polishing various metals, and it is used for filtration or for refining or purifying oils and syrups, like how we use sand, coal and all that, gravel and all that to filter the water, right, naturally. Just like that, to remove the debris or contaminants from the oils and syrups, this silica or diatomaceous earth, that is the soil rich in silica, is used for filtering purpose. So this is about the diatoms. So next, moving on to Dinoflagellates, which is one more class. So we finished with Chrysophytes, now Dinoflagellates. So Dinoflagellates, they are also aquatic in nature, especially they are found in seas and oceans. That is, they are marine in nature. And their mode of nutrition is autotrophic, wherein they are also photosynthetic, meaning they can synthesize their own food. And the color, they can be yellow in color, green, brown, blue or red in color. And the red color Dinoflagellates, one of the best example is Goniolox. So we have Goniolox, which is one of the red dinoflagellate. Red dinoflagellate. So depending on the pigments that are present in the cell, or depending on the colored pigments that are there, the different colors are there for the dinoflagellates. And the dinoflagellates also have a cell wall, and the cell wall is made up of cellulose. So the cell walls of Chrysophytes were made up of silica. The cell walls of dinoflagellate is made up of cellulose, and they have two flagella. That is why it is called dino. Di means two. Flagellate, dinoflagellate, meaning they have two flagella. One flagella, it lies longitudinally in arrangement and the other transversely, wherein it will have a furrow between the two wall plates. So if you can see the wall plates of dinoflagellates, it looks somewhat like this. So if you can see the wall plates, this is one wall plate and this is the one more wall plate. So you can see a small furrow here, or a small curved like structure, furrow. So the flagella arises from the furrow here. And one of the best example is Goniolox. And these Goniolox, they actually undergo rapid multiplication. They reproduce very, very fast in such a rate that they increase the number, or the population increases to make the sea tides appear red. If you can see here, you can see the sea tides, they are red in color, or the sea waves, it is red in color because of rapid multiplication by the red dinoflagellates, that is Goniolox. This is very, very important. Remember this Goniolox, it is an important question. And they release some toxins in large numbers, that these toxins can kill the marine fishes. So this was about dinoflagellates. So next, talking about the next class, euglenoids. So euglenoids, they are present in fresh water, especially in stagnant waters. That is, the waters which are not free flowing like the ponds, lakes, you can find the euglenoids. And these euglenoids, they do not have a cell wall. So instead what they have something called as pellicle. And what is this pellicle made up of? It is made up of protein. And because it is made up of protein, it is quite flexible. Euglena is quite flexible in nature. It can bend however it wants. So the dinoflagellate, the wall was made up of cellulose. Here it is made up of pellicle, that is protein. So euglenoids also have two flagella, one that is short and one more that is long. So they have two flagella, and their mode of nutrition, it is photosynthetic. So photosynthetic whenever sunlight is available, and if the sunlight is not available, they sometimes can also become heterotrophic, wherein they can directly go and devour other organisms or feed on other organisms directly. Example, Euglena. So this was about euglenoids. Next, moving on to slime molds. So slime molds, they are saprophytic, meaning they grow on dead and decaying logs, twigs and all that. You can find them growing. So here's a picture of slime molds. Can you see how beautiful the slime molds are? They look like molds, like just blob-like structure. So that is why we call them as molds, and they are slimy, a bit glistening and slimy. So that is why it is called as slime molds. And their body moves along decaying twigs and leaves, and they engulf. So whatever dead organic matter comes in the way, they just engulf that particular or feed on that particular organic matter. And in favorable conditions, these slime molds, they form a group or they form an aggregate or a group which is called as plasmodium. And this plasmodium group can multiply or grow to such large areas, that is up to several feet they can spread and grow. So what is the group of slime molds called? It is called as plasmodium. So when do they form a plasmodium? Whenever the conditions are favorable, they form large groups up to several feet, which is called as plasmodium. And what happens when the conditions are unfavorable? Conditions are unfavorable means whenever there is no proper moisture, no proper light, no proper environmental condition which is suitable for slime mold, they differentiate and their fruiting bodies get formed, and at the tip of the fruiting body, spores will get formed. So understand, when the environmental condition is favorable for the slime molds, for it to grow properly, they form groups which is called as plasmodium. And whenever the environmental condition is not favorable for the slime molds to grow properly, they form fruiting bodies, and at the tip of the fruiting body, spores will get formed. So that is about, so you can see here fruiting bodies, right? At the tip you can see spores being formed. So that is about the slime molds. And these spores, finally they get dispersed, and wherever they fall, new slime molds will start to develop from there, and they possess true walls. And that is why these walls help the slime molds to survive for many years, even under adverse environmental conditions. So what happens here? During unfavorable condition, they form fruiting bodies, and from that fruiting bodies, spores will be released, and these spores have walls around them which is so rigid that it will help the spore to survive any adverse environmental conditions for many years. And also the spores get dispersed by the air currents. Whenever there is air flowing on this, the spores get dispersed into the air, and wherever the air resides, it will just fall in that particular place, and new slime molds will start to develop. So this is about slime molds. Next we'll move on to protozoans. So under protozoans, we have different forms of protozoans: amoeboid protozoans, flagellated protozoans, celiated protozoans, and sporozoans. We shall study about them one by one. Amoeboid protozoan, the best example is Entamoeba as well as amoeba. So here we have amoeba. So amoeba, we all know that it doesn't have a particular shape, right? Whenever it moves, it takes that particular shape, the way it moves. So it can be It is aquatic, wherein it can live in fresh water, that is ponds, rivers, lakes and all that, and in sea water, and also they can live in moist soil, that is soil which is wet. And amoeba, they actually move. Their mode of nutrition is holozoic. So what they do is they move. So when they move, can you see here, they have false feet, which is called as pseudopodia. Pseudopodia. So here pseudo means false, podia means feet. So they have false feet. So wherever they move like this, so imagine this is a feet. So wherever they move, they find one particular food like this, they'll just move towards it and completely engulf or capture that particular prey or food. So that is how they feed. So they capture their prey by putting out the pseudopodia or the false feet. And the marine forms, that is those living in seas and oceans, they have silica deposition on their surface, like how the diatoms or the chrysophytes, they have silica on their surface. Just like that, amoeba also has silica on the surface. Example is entamoeba and amoeba. In that, entamoeba is a parasite. For example, we have entamoeba histolytica, that is a parasite on human being causing stomach related issues in humans. So this was about amoeboid protozoan. Next, moving on to flagellated protozoan. The name itself says these protozoans have flagella, therefore they are motile, and flagellas are nothing but the whip-like structures that help this particular organism to move. So these are the flagellated protozoans which has flagella. So they can be either free living, that is present as such in the environment, or they can be parasitic, wherein they, for their survival, they require a living host. They'll enter into a host organism and they will survive there. And they have flagella. And the parasitic form, some are parasitic, and if they are parasitic, they can cause diseases such as sleeping sickness disease. So trypanosoma is one of the best example for flagellated protozoan, and this trypanosoma causes sleeping sickness disease in humans. So this is about flagellated protozoans. Next, moving to celiated protozoan, one of the best example is paramecium. So if you can see here, this paramecium has fine hair-like structures covering throughout its body, which is nothing but called as cilia. So that is why they are called celiated protozoans. They are aquatic, that is they live in water, and they are actively moving organisms because their entire body is covered by cilia, which actually helps the organism to move because of the presence of thousands of cilia. And they have a cavity or a gullet, that is the opening. So if you can see here, they have a gullet, which is a cavity, that is the opening, and the food enters through this cavity. So what happens here is the entire body is covered with cilia. It acts like a row, like when we row a boat, how we push the water backwards with the row bar, right? Just like that, what happens here is when the cilia moves in one direction, pushing the water backwards, whatever food is there in the water, it will get pushed into the gullet of this particular organism. So like how we have mouth to eat food, like that, paramecium has gullet, which is an opening or a cavity. And that is how the coordinated movement of rows of cilia causes the water, which is rich with food, to enter into or to be stirred into the gullet, as I explained. So this is about celiated protozoans. So next we have sporozoans. So sporozoans are mostly parasitic. The best example is Plasmodium vivax and Plasmodium falciparum. These are the two sporozoans that actually cause malarial disease. So Plasmodium that causes malarial disease. And they are called sporozoans because they have an intermediate infectious spore-like stage in their life cycle. So what happens here is, we all know that this malarial parasite, they live in the gut of mosquitoes, right? So what happens in the mosquito is like these parasites, they produce spores. That spores enters into the saliva of the mosquito, and whenever the mosquito bites a human being, it enters into the human being. So they have an intermediate stage wherein in the middle somewhere spores will get produced. So that is why they are called as the sporozoan. So this is there in detail in the second PUC chapter when you study about the life cycle of Plasmodium. That is a malarial parasite. So that is why they are called as sporozoan, because they have a spore-like stage in their life cycle during the infection process. Best example is Plasmodium. So that was about the topic wherein we learnt about the different classes under the kingdom Protista. Because we know that now, we shall look into some of the MCQs that can be framed from this topic and can be asked for the exam. So aquatic unicellular organisms are placed under fungi, Monera, Protista, Plantae. Is it fungi? No, because fungi are not aquatic. And Monera? No, though some are aquatic, it's not Monera. Is it Protista? Yes, it is Protista, because Protista, almost all are aquatic and they are unicellular in nature. It is not Plantae because plants are not unicellular. So therefore the answer is Protista. The cell wall of diatoms are made of. What is it made up of? I told you about diatomaceous earth, right, where silica deposition occurs. So therefore the cell wall of diatom is made of silica. It is not protein. Protein, it is in euglenoids, right? In euglena, it has pellicle that is made up of protein, and cellulose is in dinoflagellates, and chitin is also different. It doesn't come under any of this. So therefore the answer is silica. Dash is a red dinoflagellate. This question was very, very important. So goniolox. Goniolox is a dinoflagellate. Diatom is a chrysophyte. Euglena is a euglenoid. Trypanosoma is a flagellated protozoan. So therefore the right answer is goniolox, which is a dinoflagellate. Dash have pellicle. So is it euglena? Yes, euglena, they do not have a cell wall. Instead, they have a protein-rich layer called as pellicle. Diatoms, they have silica. Protozoans, they have cellulose. And fungi, also they don't have a pellicle. So the right answer here is euglena. Dash are saprophytic protists, meaning they live on dead and decaying organic matter. Is it chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, slime molds, or euglena? So it's not chrysoflagellates, because chrysoflagellates are aquatic and they engulf the organism, or they directly eat their organism, eat or eat the prey. It's not dinoflagellates because they are also aquatic in nature. It's slime molds, because slime molds are the ones that only grow on the dead and decaying organic matter. So therefore it is slime molds. It's not euglenoids also, because euglenoids are also aquatic in nature. Slime molds are not aquatic. They mainly grow on dead and decaying organic matter. So therefore they are saprophytic protists. Sleeping sickness is caused by entamoeba? No, entamoeba causes stomach related issues. So that is not the answer. Is it paramecium? No. Plasmodium? No, because it causes malaria. Paramecium, they don't cause any disease. So the right answer here is trypanosoma, which is a flagellated protozoan that is parasitic in nature, causing sleeping sickness disease. Example for a celiated protozoan is, meaning those which have cilia. So is it amoeba? No. Amoeba have pseudopodia for their movement. Is it trypanosoma? No. Trypanosoma, they don't have either flagella or cilia. Euglena have flagella for their movement. It is paramecium, because paramecium, they are the ones which have fine hair-like structures called cilia. So therefore the answer is paramecium. The protozoans that have an infectious spore-like stage in their life cycle is it amoeboid protozoans? No. Flagellated protozoans, sporozoans, or celiated protozoans? It is sporozoans, because I told you one of the best example is the malarial parasite, that is Plasmodium, that have an intermediate stage in the cell cycle wherein spores are produced. So therefore it is sporozoans. So sporozoans is the answer. So this was about this session wherein we studied about kingdom Protista, under that different classes: chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime molds, and protozoans. So I hope you understood this session. We also solved some of the MCQs that can be framed under this particular topic. So we shall meet again in the coming session. Under the same chapter, we shall study a new topic, that is kingdom fungi. So see you in the next session. Thank you.